Welcome into the opening line report college football edition. I am Drew Martin Betts and joined by Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. Teddy, little college football season wins. Maybe look ahead towards the week one. We're not too far away. Media days, not too many weeks down the road. So football is at least a topic we can hit on here, Teddy. So welcome in. Happy Monday morning to you.
Yeah. And of course, we've got a whole bunch of, let's call them virgin numbers in college football that have come out over the last week or 10 days. We've got conference-only wins that are interesting to talk about. We've got full season win totals. We've got week one numbers. We've got games of the year numbers. So the focus for today's show is all about college football next week. And again, in terms of my college football work right now, I'm exactly where I am normally at this time of year, which is I've done about 1 or 2% of the work that I'm going to do in college football. So I don't want to make it feel, and this is where I normally am at this time of year. I do my NFL for work first, and then as we get into the August, I do my college football work. That's just the process I develop. So if you're looking for strong opinions, I got a handful of opinions. But if you're looking for strong opinions in college football, today is much more about evaluating the marketplace from the opener than it is about talking about which team's going to be good, which team's going to be bad. What we're interested in is the market valuations of these teams, the market expectations in college football. So that'll be the focus on today's show. And then next week,
I think Teddy was saying the market expectations for some of these teams, as we're having a little bit of technical difficulties on Teddy's end. But Teddy, I think you're good here. And shout out to the chat box first off. Aaron Williams, welcome in. Good morning. Listening from his lunch break. Well, Aaron, always welcome in. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. D from Detroit, welcome in the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, feel free to comment here. Any questions are welcome. Any handicapping questions at all. We are going over college football season win totals, week one looks as well. But Teddy, we got you back here. I do have a question for you. Is this something, I guess to new bettors out there, would you kind of lead them towards this market? I mean, the NFL season win total market, you've been able to beat for multiple decades now. So obviously you're going to point them in that direction. What about the college football season win total market? Is there anything you would kind of pump the brakes on, tell new bettors out there? And would you say, go full steam ahead here and fire away?
So there's a big difference between the college football betting season win total market and the NFL season win total market. And that is in the NFL, all right, the crappy teams are capable of beating the good teams on any given day. All right.
Yeah.
You could have, the Chiefs could lose to the whoever. I mean, the Jets. If they, it happens. And it happens often enough that you have to be aware of that potential when it comes to season win totals in the NFL. In college, when you look at the schedule going into the season, for many teams, not all the teams, but for many teams, you can look at the schedule, go win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, and be fairly accurate in that regard. When a team is 28-point dogs, they're not likely to win that game. When they're going to be 28-point favorites, they're not likely to lose that game, which means that the college football season win marketplace is really tight. Mm-hmm. When a team is lined at 8 wins, for example, all right, and you're like the difference between 8 win and 8.5 win, we talk about 50 cents worth of juice being the moral equivalent of a half a win in the NFL. In college football, it's higher.
Okay.
Because going into the season, you can already look at the schedule and half the games, win, lose. That team's not going to lose this game. They're not going to win this game.
Sure.
So there are fewer games that there are fewer games that are tight, which means that those half win differentials from one book to the next are worth more than they are in the NFL, particularly because and let's not forget the college football season is shorter than the NFL's. So the 50 cents juice equals half a win for the NFL. That can be worth twice that in college football. So be aware.
Teddy, one question I have for you, because a big reason we're talking about this is South Point in Las Vegas released their numbers. Our friend, Chris Andrews, a staple, one of the best bookmakers out there, comes out with his season win totals, which usually leads the marketplace in terms of college football season wins for the legal betting marketplace out there. Last year with the pandemic threw a little fork in that. So this year he's back towards at least the front of the pack here, Teddy. And right at the top, you see two teams, Alabama and Clemson, unless you've been hiding under a rock here, the two top teams in college football, at least program-wise, and lined at 11.5. Of course, there's 12 games on the schedule. Do you have interest in betting these kind of bets where you're essentially betting, do they lose a game or do they run the table for both of these two teams here, Teddy? Are you ever involved with that type of bet?
Generally, for the very top teams, the teams that are literally like if they lose a game, they're going to go under their season win total.
Right.
I can't recall making a bet like that in college football. I wouldn't bet Alabama or Clemson over, and I sure as heck wouldn't bet them under. In my mind, those are teams. The price is right. They're aligned exactly where they're supposed to be lined, and those aren't teams that are offering anything that I can resembling value. For better, you're in action on those squads. Yeah, you're undefeated season or not undefeated, or undefeated in the playoffs or not. Those aren't necessarily the bets I'm looking for at the very top. No.
And I guess a follow-up to that is, what about the teams at the very bottom? The Akrons of the world, the Bowling Greens of the world, the 2 wins, the 1.5 type season win total wins. Any interest going that route?
I'd be more likely to bet a team under 2 wins than over what is it, 11.5.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of, again, most of the time, and this isn't different than the NFL markets either. If I'm betting teams at the very top of the NFL markets, I'm rarely betting them over. And if I'm betting teams at the very bottom, betting once there are a handful of 4.5s I've bet under over the years in the NFL, but not, they're few and far between. Same story in college. The teams that are aligned at 2 wins, they're aligned at 2 wins because they stink,
Mm-hmm.
But betting them under a 1.5, again, there's not much leeway, not much wiggle room in those circumstances. So from my experience, I haven't done a ton with the teams at the bottom, at the very bottom. You can find the teams that are a little bit lined a little bit higher than the 2-win teams that you can oftentimes find some interest in betting against those squads. But at 2 or lower, it's hard to get involved. It really is.
It is. And one thing I'll throw out there, guys, especially with the smaller conference teams, it doesn't take a lot to jump up. So, watch out here with these Akrons and Bowling Greens lined at 1.5, 2 wins here, because keep in mind who they're playing against. And it's the MAC, whereas some of the other squads, let's just say like Vanderbilt, they're lined low, but keep in mind who they're going to have to climb over to find these wins. So that's why I'm more reluctant to bet, the Vanderbilts over, the Arizonas, the Pac-12, we'll see what happens. But, mainly the SEC, the ACC, Big Ten bottom feeders. I'm not a big fan of betting those teams over, but some of the others, the Akrons, the Bowling Greens, UConn's going independent here. Maybe Louisiana Monroe at 1.5. They're going to be playing Sunbelt teams, Teddy. I'll take a shot with some of those teams if you got a bright outlook, maybe a quarterback that is that's a heck of an athlete playing in those type of games, Teddy.
So I'm with you in terms of the ability of teams outside the Power 5 conferences to make 1-year jumps.
Right.
And it's not like teams don't make 1-year jumps in the Power 5 conferences, but if you can read the tea leaves in the Sun Belt or the MAC or Conference USA, or the Mountain West, and find teams. Look, there's so many examples. But I'm just going to use San Jose State as a team that was a bottom feeder, absolute bottom feeder in the Mountain West 2 years ago, and last year they won the conference.
Right.
So when you find these teams that are outside the mainstream media, that are likely to hold their point spread value and that are moving in the right direction, there can be huge leaps up and down. Think about where Utah State was 2 years ago to where they are now in the Mountain West, in the pecking order.
Mm-hmm.
And while you see that in the major conferences, the Power Five, you don't see it every year. You see it every year in the non-Power Five schools, in the the mid-major conferences. So in general, you're saying I have a choice between betting an ACC season win total or a Mountain West season win total. In general, I would look to the smaller conferences because that's where you're going to find the disparities from one year to the next that can go under the radar, that don't get the publicity. When a Big Ten team graduates everyone, everyone knows about it. When Wyoming graduates everyone, it doesn't have that same carryover effect. The betting market is necessarily not as strong.
Talking about some of the lowest season win totals here from the South Point Casino in Las Vegas. Shout out to Chris Andrews and putting these numbers up early. We got Kansas Jayhawks, lowest on the board here, Teddy, lined at 1 win. So if they get 1 win, you push. If they get 2 wins, you cash your ticket there on the Jayhawks. UNLV, Teddy, at 1.5. Oh, this Las Vegas program. Get your opinion on that. UNLV lined at 1.5, UMass 1.5, Louisiana Monroe 1.5, Bowling Green 1.5, Temple 2.5, New Mexico State 2, UConn 2.5, Arizona Wildcats 2.5, Akron 2.5. Then we get into the threes with teams like UTEP, Vanderbilt, Utah State, Syracuse, USF, and Navy. So Navy looked to be a drop off here, Teddy. Talked about UNLV in Las Vegas there, Teddy. Any opinion UNLV or any of the other bottom feeders that I kind of threw out there in college football this season?
Well, Kansas is a fun team to talk about.
Yeah,
they
are,
because they're lined at 1. Okay. We have in terms of Leopold, I think it's a
great hire. Great hire.
I don't know if they're look what in retrospect, what Mark Mangino did at Kansas might be the best coaching job anyone's done in the 21st century. Anyway.
Yeah, any sport.
Yeah, I mean, college. I mean, you say because where that program was before he got there and where it's been ever since he's left is exactly the same. They're the worst program in the pack in the Big 12. And when Mangino was there, they weren't just competing for conference titles; they were competing for national titles. He built that, so it's possible to build that program. And yet, you look at their schedule, you're like, "Where's the win?" They open with South Dakota at home, and they're at Coastal Carolina.
That's a tough out of conference.
It's one tough one after the next. I guess they travel to Duke.
I can't beat Duke. They're not going to beat Duke, Teddy.
I can't ask that team to win 2 games. I can't ask them to win 1 game.
Yeah.
I play it under.
Okay.
And I'm not going to play it under 1, obviously, because there's decent chance of a push, given that they're good. And it's a whole lot. It's a long time to keep your money locked for a push.
Sure.
I'll say that. When you talk about UNLV, and UNLV is certainly worth talking about because it's a product. And again, I've lived in Vegas since 1998. I've been through a whole lot of coaching hires. And I don't know that the program, I mean, the best years that they've had in the 23 years I've been here, they've been 500 seasons.
Yeah, they were in a bowl game not too many years ago against North Texas. I remember that year, Teddy.
I remember it too because I had a big ticket on North Texas in that game, and it was easy. It was over before halftime. Because UNLV
they were bowling. They were bowling.
They had no idea that they weren't ready to go bowling. They didn't have the infrastructure in place. It was chaos. I remember reading a couple articles. I was talking to someone about it who was involved in the program, and I'm like, "This is a good bet." And then that game was over early. That was as strong a bet as I've. That was one of those bets that you remember because it stood out. But they didn't win a game last year. They were outscored by more than 2-1 margin. It's a team that has, again, you say, all right, well, they're going to be playing in Reliant Stadium now. It's going to be good for the program. Tulane played at the Superdome.
Yeah, it's terrible.
All right.
Right.
And when nobody shows up, it's not good for the program.
It's not, no.
UNLV is not selling any tickets. They've literally tried every which way they can go as a program for football. They've gone with the veteran coach who's been around a while. They've done that a couple of times. And all right, let's bring in the guy with the contacts. They bring in the hot assistant from a mid-major. They bring in the hot coach from the FBS schools. They brought in guys in conference. They brought in some guys out of conference. Hasn't made a difference. The problem for UNLV continues to be very simple. They bring in a little bit of high-end talent, but the depth just isn't there. They might recruit 3 guys that you want and then 17 guys that you're, all right, they're filling out the roster. I don't see that changing anytime soon. 1.5 wins is too low. I'm not betting the Rebels under. But this is a program that has been at or near the bottom of the Mountain West since I've been here, and I don't see any imminent signs of that changing. We talk about betting these non-Power 5 win totals. We're looking for programs where the writing's on the wall. You know, hey, they showed these signs last year. Oh, they've got all these guys back this year. This program can go from 3-8, to 8 wins this year, potentially, if things break right in conference. And those are the teams I'm looking for, teams that have some semblance of momentum. UNLV's got no momentum. They've got no talent base. They've got, it's a yet another rebuild for a program that has shown no signs of the rebuild to do any good.
Yeah, Teddy, I like looking for like structural changes. Like Tulane's a team that comes into mind. They were playing, like you talked about, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Nobody was there. The atmosphere was terrible. Sure enough, they get an on-campus stadium, obviously a lot smaller. They bring in Willie Fritz, the new coach, and now they're winning 8-9 games. Like if you can catch that kind of turnaround, the structural change there, which, UNLV, I guess you could say they're playing in a new stadium, but I would turn to, Georgia State's played in that kind of role, the big NFL stadium with nobody there. It's not a good atmosphere. You're right, Teddy. I mean, unless somehow they're winning games and they're filling out that bottom bowl, which I guess you would know better than me if the alumni base is able to do that for UNLV. They got the new coach. Yeah, it's not an on-campus stadium, so
no, it doesn't matter. Even when they played, even when they played at Sam Boyd wasn't an on-campus stadium either. But even when they played in their facility, UNLV would sell 15 to 20,000 tickets, and then the opposing team would sell the rest. I mean, that's what the Rebel, that's what the fan base is, 15, 20,000.
Yeah.
And then, when Oregon State would come to play, Sam Boyd would sell out because Oregon State would bring a bunch of fans. When Wisconsin would come to play, it would sell out because Wisconsin would bring a bunch of fans. But when San Jose would come to play, you're not seeing a full facility. That doesn't change playing in Allegiant. Although tickets are so expensive for Raiders. I mean, the Raiders tickets are the hottest tickets in town.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I was looking at I was trying to figure out where can I go, and I'm like, I'm not paying a dime for a ticket. It's not worth it.
Right.
But maybe we'll get into Allegiant, go see a UNLV game instead.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go together this season, Teddy. Pick out a game or something. But hey, let's hit the chat box a little bit. We got Jonathan in the house. Will you look to bet overs on teams that got screwed by COVID-19 last year? I guess you can go a couple different ways with this question, Teddy, in terms of getting screwed last year by COVID. But you picking up anything here from Jonathan?
The answer is not necessarily. It's with any one of these win totals, and with all of these win totals, it literally is a case-by-case basis. There are teams that got screwed by COVID last year that now have 1 million returning starters and all kinds of depth and are in great shape.
Right.
There are teams that got screwed by COVID last year that are not in great shape. So it really is a case-by-case basis. And I haven't seen the markets. And again, I've gone through these numbers twice. This is really the third time I'm looking at them as we're talking today. I've gone through the numbers twice. So it's not like I've sit there and the numbers are baked into my head and I've been thinking about them for months. I haven't. But in general, I like the thought process. But I don't think it's a blanket rule we're going to look to bet on these teams. I really think with any win total, it's all about the nuances of that particular team and that particular schedule. The broader picture stuff is nice to consider, but the actual wager is going to be based on if that team's any good or not. Not whether they are and what the value is on that team. But I haven't seen the markets really broadly undervalue teams that had their COVID issues last year that look to be in better shape this year. I nothing stood out to me in that regard, at least not so far.
Guys, we're hitting the chat box a little bit here. Opening line report each and every Monday on WagerTalk YouTube, also on Twitter as well, at Teddy_covers, at Drew Martin Bets. Feel free to shout out questions on Twitter, below on YouTube as well. We'll answer them on the show going forward. And in the chat box right now, feel free to fire away here. Check out Teddy Covers at WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com. He's got a free play up in MLB. Going to want to check it out. I actually bet this personally, Teddy. liking the underdog in one of the 3 games in MLB. Look at his written up analysis here for tonight's game. 17-1. That's 94%. I didn't know the percent there, Teddy, because I don't know if I've ever gone 17-1. So shout out to you, man. 94% MLB run plus 57% ROI, return on investment in that time frame. Teddy, you are hot right now in MLB. That is an understatement. What are you doing right, man?
The answer is I'm not doing anything differently.
It's just,
I mean, you say where to come from? So the one thing that I've been doing is I've been getting multiple wins out of teams, and in fact, the one loss that made me crazy on Saturday, because I should have freaking taken the Red Sox right back again. I had them on Friday, and I should have had them on Saturday as well. And I was really mad that I didn't. And then it was a total that was live the whole way and didn't get there. It was really frustrating. The one, but I'm almost glad I had that one, because it's 60. I was 16-0, and it was just too gaudy. At 17-1, you're like, let's go. I'm seeing MLB pretty clearly right now. I'm excited about this stretch run. And historically, this is the time of year. I don't know what it is about May and June. Those are the 2 months that I beat MLB on the most consistent basis. So I've had some monster runs in June leading into the All-Star break. And then it was really important. I lost on Saturday night, and I was beside myself, dude. I was so mad. And then I'm like, I'm coming back on Sunday. I'm finding one play in this guy. And I came back with the Astros yesterday, and it was easy. It made me sweat a little bit in the 8th, but it was mostly they were right side, and we got right back on track. So the MLB's been really good. The NBA's been really good. It's been a nice run for the clients in recent weeks, and my own bankroll has enjoyed it as well. So it's been good. No complaints.
Absolutely. It's tough to complain, guys. 12-3, 80% all sports runs since the end of May, and 17-1, 94% in MLB. Teddy is seeing it clearly on the diamond. He's got his free play up. Going to want to check out his page, Sports Memo and WagerTalk.com. Experts page Teddy covers. He's got Suns Nuggets game 1 money up here for today's plays. So a lot going on here at the website. We got some more questions here in the chat box, going for about 10, maybe 15 more minutes here on the show. Feel free to shout out any questions on Twitter or in the chat box live here at the Wager Talk YouTube. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to leave a comment below. We'll answer any questions on next week's show. That way, we got Aaron Williams, good friend of the show. Welcome in, Aaron. 1 year jumps. How does the transfer portal impact recently changes and flood on players entering the portal? How does it impact your handicapping for NCAA football season win totals, Teddy? I'm guessing a lot here, Teddy.
Yeah, and it's a excellent question, Aaron. And one of the things that we're seeing is the flow of talent from the non-Power 5 schools to the Power 5 schools, all the graduate transfers and the like. And the transfer portal certainly a factor in that regard, which tells us that some of these non-Power 5 schools might not be quite as competitive in their step-up games as they've been in years past. So, as a general thought process, I'm thinking the Power 5, this helps Power 5 schools as opposed to the mid-majors. And from a win total standpoint, it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, I agree with you. Good point there in terms of Group of 5 making the jump up. Mike Campbell, welcome in. Joe, talking here about Dan Walken of USA. Okay, feel free to chime out anything that works. We got Joey asking or commenting here on Tulane, how they had to build their on-campus smaller stadium, and that remedied the problem. Now it's kind of a cool value, might help them get back to some form of decency. Actually, I think they're already there. They got a good coach. You can just tell looking at their defensive and offensive lines. I mean, keep in mind, Tulane is in the state of Louisiana, and depending on the year, per capita Division I recruits, it's the most out of any state. Now, a lot of people talk about Florida, Georgia, California, Texas, but there's more population in those states. The state of Louisiana has less of a population and produces a lot of good high school talent, and Willie Fritz is grabbing a lot of that. So I agree with you. The on-campus stadium can do a huge look, Teddy, towards the future of a lot of these programs.
Yeah, the problem for UNLV, of course, is that Allegiant Stadium just got built. I think the Rebels signed, a 20-year lease or a 30-year lease? They're not going anywhere. And it's fun to play in a cool new place, we'll see how it looks. If they win, people will go. I mean, we've seen that Vegas is a sports town that reacts very well to winners. If they win, people will go. But it's a program that hasn't won in the 23 years I've been out here, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. Joe Esposito asked a couple of an interesting question. When lines in college are over 30 cents, what's the minus 30? What's the strategy? I don't really understand what he's asking there. Do you know?
Yeah. So if it's like, let's just call it 4 touchdowns or more, blowout games.
Oh, minus 30. Yeah. Oh, okay. Minus 30. I thought he was talking about 30 cents and worth of juice. When college lines at 30 are so in general, I don't get involved in a lot of those games. In general, when I get involved in a game where there is a point spread this high, if I'm playing the dog, I better be damn sure the favorite's distracted. It's got to be a sandwich spot, a look ahead, something where you're not getting the full effort from the favorite. Okay. If I'm playing the favorite in these games, there are 2 issues that I'm looking for. One, I want defensive depth. So that way, when we're up 40-7 in the fourth quarter and I'm laying 30, the second stringers can still get a stop, or the third stringers can still get a stop. Defensive depth is key when you're talking about laying these prices in college football. So that's certainly a major factor to consider for the favorites. But in general, I'd rather lay 30 than take 30. At 40, I'd always rather than lay 40 than take 40. Okay. I don't want 40-point dogs. 40-point dogs, it's that there's a mismatch. And the mismatch is every bit as great when the reserves are on the field than they are when the starters are on the field. So excellent question, Joe. Thanks.
It really is, Teddy. A couple things I'll throw out there is when I'm betting a big dog, I want a team that can score, Teddy. Mm-hmm. Not a team that puts up a good fight. You were the one that put me onto that a couple years ago, and I found something there. The underdog that's just well-coached team, but the athletes aren't there. I'm not so into that when you're giving up like huge athletic edges. And another thing is look at the coaches of the favorite, not necessarily as the underdog, Teddy, but the favorite. How much they're willing to go, gas pedal down and keep scoring when you're up 4 and 5 touchdowns there. Like one thing that comes to mind is Nick Saban. I'm not so interested in laying a big number with Nick Saban, but talk about one of his assistants, Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin will go, pedal to the metal. I'll lay a big number with him. So just wanted to throw those 2 things out.
Yeah, and that's why everyone bets Alabama first half. That's why there was such a huge betting bandwagon on Alabama first half, because we know Saban's MO.
Yeah.
If they're up 35-0 before halftime, he'll call all 3 timeouts to make sure they go up 42-0 before halftime. And then in the second half, you won't see a starter on the field, and they'll run the ball up the middle every play, and they end up not covering 43.5.
Yeah.
It happens all. It happens. So that's why there's been such a big betting bandwagon for Alabama first half, because A, Saban's got a great track record in those roles, and B, we already know the MO of the coach, which is not balls to the wall for 60 minutes. It's balls to the wall for 30 minutes. Excellent question, Joe. Thanks.
Yeah.
And Kyle just sent something in as well. He was asking about Georgia and Clemson, which I thought was worthy of discussion. You go first. Georgia and Clemson. What do you think? Where's this? Because let me make this real clear. The only reason to bet this game now, one way or the other, is if you think this numbers were off and is going to be a significantly different come week 1. Otherwise, you don't want to. There's no reason to lock in now. So if you think the number's going to move, it makes sense. Get down.
Yeah, Teddy. I mean, in terms of the overall strategy, Teddy, it's something in college football that I used to do is get down on these season win totals early, lock up my money, like heck, 10% of my bankroll sometimes when I was younger. And now I've realized I've even thrown in the concept of, Jerome Powell, not to get political here, but what we've done to the US dollar and 30% of the dollars created in the last, 15 months, what that's doing is the pricing point of the dollar going down. Therefore, you want to be having your money now. You don't want somebody else holding your money for a long period of time because you could be doing other things with it. And I only bring that up because let's face it, your bankroll is your personal money, and it's not as smart now as it was 5 years ago. So I just wanted to throw that out there for some relevance of what I'm doing personally. I'm not betting as many of these, hold my money for 6 months and we'll figure out the winner then. I'm holding on to my money now and then betting it closer to game time. So I'm having less of the season win total bets. This one a little bit shorter here in week 1. I guess you'd get paid at the beginning of September, Teddy. I hate going against the SEC. I really do, especially plus points. But Clemson, it's almost that, recruiting type style here, the Clemson and Alabama. This is a real difficult one for me. I guess I would go with Georgia. I really would. And that's not because of a home field advantage. I believe it is in Atlanta. Clemson's going to have a ton of fans there, maybe a 60-40, possibly even 50-50 split there. But overall, I'd lean with the underdog, especially if you get it at +4.
Yeah, I'm seeing 3.5 and 4 out there right now. Both lines available as we speak. And a lot of time, the week 1 marquee matchups, I don't play.
Me neither.
Yeah, I end up finding I find my value in week 1. A lot of times week 1 I'm looking to play favorites. All right, let me start with that in terms of my strategy for week 1. The wise guys, the square sharps, spent all summer. This dog is live. That dog is live. Oh, this dog is great. Oh, that dog is great.
Yeah.
They're always making case for every freaking dog they can make for week 1. I've seen it happen. Literally, happens every year. Oh, they can't be landing. I find the week 1 values with favorites, and I tend to look for favorites. And a lot of times I'm looking for mid-major favorites that are going to smack somebody that isn't any good.
Yeah.
That's it tends to be my week 1 overall overarching strategy or philosophy. Georgia Clem's going to be a great game, but my advice, and I have no hesitation making bets now that aren't going to get paid in September or made until December or January. That's what I worked 23 years to build up a bankroll for, so I can make those type of wagers. That said, this is the type of game that I would wait until the week of the game, and then you bet against the money. These marquee matchups, week 1, the money's wrong. 3.5, 4. If it goes 6, you got to play on the dog. If it goes off at 2.5, you got to play on the favorite, and otherwise you leave the game alone. That's my thought process.
Fair enough. I agree with you in terms of the marquee matchups. I'm not a huge bettor of those week 1 either. Also, I think I said Atlanta. It's actually in Charlotte, neutral site. Thanks for that, Kyle. Mainly because week 1, I've never been a huge volume guy week 1, Teddy, because you're always trusting somebody else's opinion. You're reading these blog writers, you're reading these, team beat writers, and sometimes, they're kind of like propping up the program, and you learn that heck, everything they say, this new quarterback zipping it around, the offenses, and then they go out there and they lay an egg. And I've just done it so many times that week 1, I have 2, 3, 4 bets depending, and that's kind of it, Teddy. I'm not peppering the board week 1.
I'm with you 100%. I do the exact same thing, and I've had the exact same experience where you're reading the local papers. You're like, this quarterback kicking ass, and you go out and watch them. And they're like, no, this isn't practice, dude.
I know.
It's not. You and I are both watchers. That's why I was pointing my eyes. I'm like, and week 1 of the NFL season, we've seen them already play in the preseason. We've seen something. Week 1 of college, we haven't seen anything. There's a spring game, I guess, that, there are guys that spend a lot of time watching spring games, and more power to them. I don't. But it's all about reading and not seeing. So I tend to take some of the reading with a grain of salt in college football. And week 1, it doesn't make a difference. Every week during college football, I'm sitting, you've been in my office, Drew. I sit in that chair from 9 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. And I watch, we got the 3 TVs going. And at the end of week 1, I'll have watched 40 or 50 teams play. And at the end of week 2, I'll have watched another 40 or 50 teams play. Mm-hmm. And at the end of by September, I'll have watched every team play twice, or everything that's on TV at least play twice. And you have a real good assessment of what's going on, who can play and who can't. But for week 1, if I find 3 strong week 1 wagers, I'm happy.
Yeah. I'm with you, Teddy. We also got Luke saying, no way I trust a Kirby Smart offense. That's a good point, Luke. And, I was just saying lean Georgia. I haven't bet it personally. So no Clemson fans out there. No need to come at me. Nothing that I've gotten down personally. Just felt like needed to say one side or the other. Teddy, I have one question for you. We're coming up against it time-wise. You said, you sit in the chair. I have seen your setup. It's a nice setup. I agree with you. College football, by the way, I think is the most important to watch what's going on. Obviously, football, the way it sets up, 11 simultaneous matchups, all having different outcome, different importance on the outcome of the play. I just find that not that analytics don't matter. They just matter less than the sport of basketball and baseball. That's just my opinion out there. And college football, and especially like Teddy's talking about, you want to watch these guys and see who has the athletic advantage. That's where I've had the most success. Teddy, and you bring up watching it, taking notes. I'm the same way here. Get comfortable. Multiple TVs, not too many TVs though, because you don't want to spread your attention too thin. That's the advice I would give. 2 to 3 TVs, I think, is the prime area here. But Teddy, one thing I've had trouble doing personally is, you got to remember you're a human being. So when you get up and you start watching, 8 a.m., let's just call it an hour before kickoff, all the way to the end of the degenerate specials on the West Coast there, 10 p.m. Pacific time. What are you doing throughout the day? Are you just sitting there and then only going to eat, or are you going to take walks? Like a little life advice here for your Saturday college football.
Mostly I just sit there,
all day long.
So I'm a smoker. So I take a smoke break every an hour, 90 minutes or so. I'll go downstairs and have a smoke and take my eye off the TV for a minute. Usually I wait to the start of I do it at the start of the first quarter and then the start of the third quarter. I don't care about the kickoff, but that's in terms of times where I'll take a couple of minutes and go downstairs, and I don't smoke in the house, so I'll go downstairs and do that. A lot of times Carol will make dinner, and at some point, she'll go, yeah, you want me to bring it up? No, I'll come down and I'll sit. If I need a break, I'll come down and watch. Eat dinner downstairs with a boy and do something. But mostly it's sitting there,
Okay.
And there's something, again, Dave Malinsky, Dave Malinsky was my mentor, rest in peace, Dave. But, what he said, he used to go to, he didn't have a wife that was nice enough to cook for him on weekends and all that kind of thing. But he used to set up where he would go to Lotus of Siam on Friday and order takeout. It's the best Thai restaurant, one of the best Thai restaurants in the world. And he'd order like 5 meals for the weekend. He had Friday night dinner and Saturday, and then Saturday night and Sunday. So the food would be just right there for him. All he's got to do is heat it up, and you sit there and you type and bet and watch, and type and bet and watch. And that's what I do all weekend, all football season. It doesn't change. It's not all that different on Sundays, to be perfectly honest. But and that's the trade-off that you're going to make to be successful at this. If you want to go have weekends and hang out with the wife and go to the kids' football games and all that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's a trade-off that you're going to make in terms of the ability to suck in as much knowledge as you can from watching these games. So I don't do any of it. I just sit at home and watch football. It's not like a college football season lasts forever. It's 3 months. It's 14 weeks basically, where your Saturdays are dead. All right, good. I like watching. I like watching college football. It's fun. I have no problem doing that all day, every day on Saturday for that 14, 15 week span.
Love it, Teddy. And guys, we're going to have to end it there, coming up on the 40-minute mark. But Teddy covers 17-1, 94% MLB run, plus 57 return on investment, 12-3 all sports run. So he's seeing it well, guys. Question here, what do we think of the Suns? Actually, you can check out Teddy's top play, WagerTalk, sportsmemo.com. Suns Nuggets game 1 money. And he's got a free play up, written analysis on his page, experts page. Teddy covers Kansas City Royals, LA Angels tonight. It's a game I bet personally here. So go read it on the sites, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Huge shout out to the chat box. Rose Crans, we got Luke in the house. Ivan, all of you guys, thanks for joining us. Kyle as well, bringing the goods here. Good questions, guys. Dallas, Joe, Joey, all of you guys. Please smash the like button on your way out. We'll be back next Monday, same time, same place. So best of luck with your bets until then. For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. We'll talk next Monday.